from Havili was magic. The shift on for Scotty. Boom, far down you go, Quackett Smith. Me, oh my, I have enjoyed that. Yes, boy.
Sit back, relax, put your belt on, enjoy the show.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode 29 of the Draft Rugby Podcast, where we discuss fantasy Super Rugby, the game they play online in heaven. You can check out the platform at draftrugby.com and you'll find us on the socials at Draft Rugby. I am joined by Harry and Nelson on Zoom. Harry doing his best to smash his surroundings with the trophy.
Staying home, Cargie. Staying home, mate.
No, well, how were both your weekends? Thank you for joining me. I hope your weekends were better than your fantasy team's weekends. But
my weekend was a bit up and down, mate. We won a brilliant local derby. Harry was there, had it live streamed, and won in the 89th minute with a try to win by 1 point. So that was pretty entertaining, but a little bit worse for wear after that. And I don't remember anything about any fantasy footy being played, so it's all good.
Oh, that was it? That was all that happened on the weekend?
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's good to
Actually,
know.
wait, I do want to say in our personal table of head-to-head, there was a clear loser, wasn't it, Harry? Or did Harry beat Cargie in the one-on-one?
Yeah.
Damn it, we're all drawn.
Mate, come on, I never lose. Don't put that on me.
We have all beaten one other podcaster in the podcast cup, if you will.
Yeah. The sad thing was that Nelson only had 2 wins, one against the bye and one against me. Absolute stitch.
But it wasn't even a bye against me. He had a good week as well.
That's it. No, that was, look, obviously you can take away from that, yes, yours truly did defeat, or I should say crush, Nelson this weekend. It was really important to not be the only podcaster without a loss. And to all the fans out there, look, and to the other drafters, I did say 75% of my motivation for winning this weekend was to make sure that Nelson was back in the Spoon final where he belongs, and 25% was just to make sure I got into the finals.
Congratulations on another successful trade rape as well, Cargie. Will Jordan for Geordie Barrett. Top shelf.
That's true. Look, it was a very contentious week with the possibility of the Crusaders and Blues game, spoiler alert, being cancelled. And I pulled the ripcord early. And I traded away the best players in the fantasy competition, my Crusaders, and I got back what I could, which turned out to be pretty bloody good.
Mate, I also had a little few chats with people behind the scenes. You were about to have Will Harrison for Richie Mo'unga, and I worked hard to make sure you got Matt Tamua instead. Matt Tamua got 13 points compared to Will Harrison's 54, and worked hard for my own trade. So I ended up getting Jock Campbell and Garden Bishop for Mark Talea, who didn't play, and Mitch Hunt. And Mitch Hunt ended up getting more points anyway than Jock Campbell and Garden Bishop combined. Terrible.
I was going to say, I'm glad to hear that all worked out for you. That's true. You preventing me from getting Will Harrison just made it all the more closer, the odd 170 points I beat you by. But,
the interesting thing is you leave that up there because with the points you can see that Nabung, who's in third, is only 81 total points above me. The 2 blokes sitting above me are far below. This is...
They're about playing the man.
I lagged out a bit then. Harry, that's a great point about playing the man. I definitely played the man this week. But I just put up on, as my Zoom background, the OG League table where you can see 2 of the podcasters' names up in the green end of the table where they belong and are very familiar. And someone with he's in the red end, kind of like the background of his Zoom picture right now. So right where he belongs.
Another day in the office for me, mate.
That's it. No, very good. But no, Harry, look, it was a little unfortunate for you as well, mate. I believe you were 9 points off staying on top of the table for getting the attacking bonus point, 450 attacking bonus point.
Yeah.
No further comment on it. You're devastated. Okay.
Yeah, I was. I really wanted minor premiership, and I knew I just needed 450 for it, but 441. It's all right. Still in the game, mate. It's all good.
Very good. All right. Well, no, that's enough of our fantasy chat and me bathing in my glory. before we get stuck into our menu for tonight, do we want to do a quick breakdown, though, of how our final series worked? That, of course, being the last round of the regular season, or should we save that and add it into dessert? What do we think?
I think for dessert.
Add it in dessert? All right, let's do it. Okay, well, for our menu, on our menu for tonight, then, we will be reviewing Draft Rugby Round 7, the last round of the regular season. And this was the final week of the Super Rugby Aotearoa competition, or half week of that competition, if you will. And it was round 7 of Super Rugby AU. For main course, we're going to look to round 8 of Super Rugby AU and what to expect in that. And for dessert, we're going to take a look back at the regular season, look at the top 3 performers in the competition in every position by total fantasy points, and which Super Rugby teams they belong to. So which teams had the most top performers.
Is that of just Aotearoa, or is that of both?
I believe that is of both, but
So
it may end up looking more like Aotearoa, I suspect, just because that's how the Kiwis...
There's 2 teams that had no one in that list. One was an Aussie and one was a Kiwi, and you could probably pick both of them.
I don't believe it. No, that's huge. All right, well, let's get into it. So for Entree, the buys this week were the Blues and the Force. They weren't, because the Blues did kind of have a buy, I guess.
The Brumbies and Chiefs.
No, we didn't update the notes, but no, the Brumbies and Chiefs had the buy in the last round, and spoiler alert here, but the Blues and Crusaders game did get cancelled because of the coronavirus outbreak in Auckland. We all thought perhaps it was a great idea to play it behind closed doors, because then you would know that all the Kiwis were at home watching the footy.
I hoped that.
The government didn't quite feel that argument held as much water. So, the first game, Harry, why don't you take us away, mate? The Force and the Waratahs.
I think Nelson's going to do it.
Yeah, no, look,
I'm on fire today. I'm killing it.
Great job, mate. So yeah, look, the Force got towed up here 8-28, 1 try to 3. I think this game was actually played in Queensland, so neither home state, just to make sure the Waratahs couldn't get 2 home games against them. In terms of the returns column, Ian Pryor returned from his shoulder injury, and Rob Simmons returned from his rib fracture a couple weeks after doing it. In terms of new injuries, Nick Frisbee, he actually broke his nose. Didn't break his name. He broke his nose.
He broke his nails.
He broke his nails. He needs a podiatrist. But yeah, no, look, this was a game I think we all hoped that the Tars could put it together 2 weeks in a row. Yeah, Harry, what did you want to say?
Just on injuries as well, I didn't mention it in the casualty ward last week. I didn't realise Dane Zander injured his knee midweek, and he's out for the season as well. That cost me my 9 points for the record.
Oh, mate, don't complain. All right, so this is the first time the Tars have actually gone back-to-back in 17 months. So it doesn't sound like something you'd be too proud of, but as Waratahs fans over here, it is good to see it's finally happened, and all we had to do is bring the Force back into the competition. The first half of this match wasn't as solid as a lot of the other footy we've seen in the Aussie conference. It was just a little bit slow. The teams are feeling each other out a little bit. A lot of foursome backs, which is I suppose probably named after the Force in the start of this game here. But yeah, look, the Force set piece really, I think, struggled throughout this one, as we thought it may, especially in their lineouts. They won only 10 of 18 lineouts. That's 56%. For all you guys that can't do maths out there, Cargie. The Waratahs also won 7 of 9, getting 78%. The Scrums, the Force lost 3 of their 10, while the Tars only lost 1 of their 5. Big thing out of this one before we touch on anything else is Nick Berry is atrocious. What do you guys think of Nick Berry?
Is he the reason you lost this week? Just like Ben O'Keefe the week prior? Or?
Yeah, something like that.
I just wonder what he's watching half the time. Like, I just don't think he's got any feel for the game. I think we had a good discussion ourselves about whether that scrum penalty that went against the Western Force against Kieran Longbottom, and Cargie saw it differently to you and I, Nelson. I think he had a good argument as well that I think they pinged Longbottom for angling in, which he probably was. But I thought Tom Robertson as well was really poor under a lot of pressure, and he didn't take the hit, and his elbow dropped straight to the ground as well. And I just think you reward the dominant scrum. You've given a few scrum penalties in a row to the Western Force. I just don't know how you take away their best attacking opportunity for, one penalty when they're clearly the dominant scrum.
I think what actually sort of led up to that point, because you could see Tom Robinson's response afterwards, was he was saying, I told you, trying to say like he claimed that this was happening. But to be honest, maybe Longbottom was boring in a little bit. But for me, I don't think Robertson was ever really set. I think he had the weaker position from the start of that contact. So I think it could have definitely gone either way, but one team was definitely dominant leading up to it. And I think if Tom Robertson wasn't in his ear, I think the penalty probably would have gone the other way. So that's probably good from Tom Robertson, to be fair. But it's interesting to see a prop manipulate what Nick Berry's seeing there.
That was the moment as well. I thought it was pretty bad all the way through, to be honest.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'll just say, look, the dark arts of the scrums can go either way, but I thought it wasn't necessarily just that. Nick Berry made a number of mistakes. I think he said at some point, I just wanted to, let the game play. Once or twice, someone wanted to pull it back for a penalty. If he wanted to let the game play, there was quite a few times he really sucked the momentum out of the attack. So I think he had quite a few bad mistakes.
I felt it was pretty harsh. I won't go into too much detail, but the try, I think, for Gordon, when he was it a chip over and Hunt was offside, maybe by like a tiny bit, and they've said no, Hunt's onside, and then they pinged Gordon for being offside, but he was making
for advancing
a effort to not advance. Like he made a humongous effort to wait till Hunt went past him before he stepped forward. And he ended up getting pinged for it.
Mind you, at the TMO.
Yeah, true. Mind you, at the time, the two tries I was denied, Nelson was very happy with and completely on Nick Berry's side at that point in time, though. Yeah.
100%. Look, I think a couple of little things I wanted to touch on as well. The first thing we've seen from Kahuri, his little nutmeg grubber to set up that try for Stander, and Stander running through at pace to pick that up and score. It was good to see that they come together from the force. And I think we need to give a shout out to Michael Hooper, the youngest man to make 150 caps, I think, at Super Rugby level. So that's amazing.
I think Aaron Smith hit his 150th as well.
He did.
What's the difference in age between those two? Surely they must be pretty close.
I think Kiwis actually age 2 years to one of Aussies. They always look a bit older and harder done by.
Yeah, I think after David's got a year or two on him. So
29th of October 91 for Michael Hooper, and 21st of November 88, 31 to 28. Well, he's got 3 years on him. Wow,
that's it.
3 years. So look, the match stats were pretty similar for possession and territory. The Waratahs had 499 to 387 in terms of the meters, 22 to 14 tackle busts, and 14 to 8 offloads. Fantasy man of the match was Jack Maddox with 64 points. He looks solid again. 11 runs for 76 meters, a try assist, a line break, 4 tackle busts, and 2 offloads. For the Waratahs, Will Harrison had 54 points, Jack Dempsey 51, Jake Gordon 48, and for the Force, Stowers got 45, a man I let go to pick up. Lee Warner, that was a mistake. Brian Udstander got 44, Byron Ralston 41, and Thrush got 40.
Cool, nice one.
Excellent.
Next one, sorry, Craigs.
Please lead us on.
I was going to say, Matt, I'll take all the New Zealand games this week.
Sounds good.
So, firstly, we'll start with the Highlanders and the Hurricanes game. Highlanders under the roof got up 38 to 21, 5 tries to 3. I don't think there was any returning players from injuries in this one that came to mind for me. But you did have the one injury with Parry Parkinson limping off the field at like the 39th minute or something. So obviously something wasn't right there. And I've had another Google. I can't find any detail as to what it was.
Do you know what happened to Hoosen?
Yeah.
He was pulled pre-game.
Yeah.
Is that what it was? Okay.
He was pulled pre-game with my pickup Tia to start, but that didn't work.
I saw him congratulating someone else on a try when he didn't do anything at all to help. So Nelson would have been devastated. But yeah, I didn't know why he was on the field. So yeah, there you go. Not sure. That one jumped past me, to be honest.
No, I didn't hear why Hoosen was injured. I just that he was pulled pre-game. Sorry.
I'm on it, boys.
Right, good. Okay, in this one. So first of all, they survived the COVID scare to play. So they had to push it 4 hours earlier so that the Canes could actually fly home on the same day with the new restrictions. It was level 2 lockdown in all of New Zealand other than Auckland, which was on level 3. Level 2 lockdown, they just can't have crowds. So obviously a bit of a different atmosphere for them, having had packed stadiums for absolutely everything up to that point.
They did play the crowd noise in the stadium. And
yeah, they also they played this game 4 hours earlier due to the fact that they needed the teams to fly home on the same day. That was part of. So yeah, did you say that?
That might have been exactly what Harry just said. But it's all right. Well, there was a delay. Nelson is calling in from very far. It was a bit of a delay. But just in case you missed that point, I want to really ram it home. So they played 4 hours late. No.
Earlier, 4 hours earlier, Cargie.
So well, obviously I missed everything. So.
Just like in fantasy footy, Nelson's always way behind the rest of us.
Oh, wow.
How good.
All right, so moving on. Aaron Smith's 150th game in this one, as we said, 31 years old, but awesome achievement for him, and he played very well. And Ash Dixon, his 100th, scored 1 or 2 tries. Who scored that second rolling maul try? Second half rolling maul try?
I think Dixon only got 1, but I don't know who's with him.
Gordy's good. Like I always liked him, and I was a little bit disappointed with the rise of Liam Coltman with the fact that he got game time. But you had to respect the fact that Coltman was very good as well. But Ash Dixon has always been an excellent player. Back when he was captain in the Maori and everything, I've always really liked him. So it's been great to see his form this year.
And him getting the majority of the time, the lion's share of the time this season. So.
That's what he really needed, to be fair. He just needed to start week in, week out. Liam Coltman hasn't had as much of a say in this because he just hasn't been as good. But was that second try the penalty try? Was that Artie Sevilla?
No, it wasn't a penalty try. It wasn't a penalty try in the end.
It was a penalty try, though. It was Artie Sevilla coming in the side.
Okay, if it was a penalty try, that
it
was
yes.
Yeah, no problem. I know they gave the yellow card. I didn't realise they actually got awarded as that. That'll make sense. One more accolade in this one as well. Dane Cole's the most capped forward for the Hurricanes with 119 matches. So pretty big moment for him as well. And at the pace that he's still got, I reckon he's got another good 15 to 20 years in him as well.
You just need some calf implants.
Yeah. That's right.
Bonus question, boys. Who did he just overtake to become the most capped forward?
It's got to be who was that back rower? Number 8. Not what's his name? Brad, he's playing in England now. Why can't Brad Shields?
No, it's not him.
No, come on.
Victor Vito?
It was Tumunga Allan?
Jeffrey Tumunga Allan.
I think so.
Really?
I'm pretty sure it was.
Wow, that is interesting.
I hope
Here we go. I was hoping it was someone I cared about, but fine. That's very
interesting, mate. I love Tumunga Allan.
Big Jeff, yeah. No.
First half of this one, getting to the game, was absolutely champagne rugby. Just the Hurricanes scored 2 length the field tries, everyone involved. Jamie Booth, particularly impressive. He's just so good. He needs to go to the Crusaders so that he can start at 9 for them.
He needs to be Australian. We'll take him as well.
I thought he was going to be your first trade pickup, Harry, for sure, but you let him sink through.
100% he was, but he got picked up way before me.
Oh, in the first round, did he? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was 100% taking him. I was so excited.
Yeah.
But, he played up to that hype as well. I thought he was excellent, really, really good. And I remember the commentators as well saying at halftime they thought he was the best person on the park. So that's pretty impressive for a bloke that's got barely any game time all year. The Highlanders kind of stayed in the first half. They had a rolling maul try and they had 1 go against the grain as well. It was 14 all. And, I thought the Hurricanes probably had a little bit of the upper hand. In the second half, though, they just absolutely ran away with it. like Nelson said, there was that rolling maul try that ended up in a penalty try and a yellow card to Adi Sevilla. They were still already kind of getting away from the game at that point. But I think that was kind of like the thing that really stole any momentum and any hope away from the Hurricanes fans and Hurricanes players. And then as they kind of tried to chase the game and throw the ball around late, the Highlanders just kind of put the foot in the throat and just finished them off. And it was really impressive from Aaron Smith. Mitch Hunt, I thought, was absolutely excellent. And maybe he can play fullback. I really thought it was not going to work at all, but he was excellent as well. And I would just shout out, before I get to the points and the stats, Garden Bashop as well. I thought he had some really fine touches, and that is difficult for me to say, to be completely honest with you. So impressed by that. Look, the match stats in this one, the first half, the Highlanders had all the possession and territory at 70% apiece. And in the Hurricanes, they dominated in the second half with 60% of possession, 63% in territory. So the possession kind of went each way and didn't really reflect the flow of the game, in my opinion. Huge running meters in this, under the roof, as we say every week. Fantasy points are plenty, 661 to 681 run meters, which is just absolutely mammoth. 40 to 21 tackle bust, the Highlanders leading that one, which is ridiculous. 24 to 22 line breaks, just insane. 18 turnovers for the Highlanders as well. And it was just insane. The other stat that kind of stood out to me was the Hurricanes only tackled at 69%. 91 or 131, and I think that kind of tells the story of why they lost. The Highlanders were just running rampant, and the Hurricanes looked a little bit down and out. Obviously, not quite been in the hunt anymore for the competition to win their title. I think they kind of lost a bit of steam. Fantasy man of the match on this one was 77 points. Geordie Barrett, he had 14 runs for 122 metres, almost the magic 10 metres a run. 6 tackle busts, 3 line breaks, 3 offloads, and 3 conversions to boot as well. Michael Collins, 76 points. He'll never do that again. Aaron Smith, 68. Josh Ioane, 61. Mitch Hunt, 60. Tu'u, 53. Dixon, 51. In the Hurricanes, Jamie Booth was 65. Vince Asso, 49. Peter Umunga Jensen, 48. Just points everywhere. Like we said, pick players under the roof.
The one thing that I've learned from this is definitely the pick players under the roof. I have thought about this. If I didn't pick up Satutu, and I picked up Satutu, and I picked up Hoskins. No, if I didn't pick up Hoskins Satutu,
did you damage your head?
Tutu, I would be in, I think, the top 4.
Yeah,
because he's killed it compared to Satutu doing nothing.
Harry, when are we coming out with the Draft Rugby book from Nelson? I would have killed it when.
That just shows you how small, the fine lines.
I would have been in the finals if, but
fine lines.
No, I will say, you had pains talking about Jackson Garden Bashop. I'll say Michael Collins. Don't like him, but he's bearable as a centre. You know what I mean? He's definitely a centre and not a fullback. I'll say that much.
He's the one player that has entered my team and become better. I don't know where it's come from. I was desperate when I picked him up, and he's been good.
That is probably the most incredible fact about Michael Collins right there. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Not even Nelson could ruin him.
All right. Well,
Clark to everyone.
Let's move it on to the third game, and we'll let Nelson finish off with the last Kiwi game of the.
Sounds good.
The Reds and the Rebels. 3 tries to 0. The Reds took this one 19-3. And there's only really one point that needs to be talked about for this entire game. It was the battle of the one and only Pony, Fa'amasili, and Taniela Tupou. That's the only narrative that was of any interest to anyone, not just prop lovers such as myself. And did it deliver? It bloody delivered. It was fantastic. They were both just... There was once or twice they did come together in big clashes, but...
Big battering rams.
Oh, mate. The scrums, that was incredible. That was going to be one of the real big tests for the Rebels.
I'm surprised the scrum didn't just turn, because they were both on the opposite sides and they didn't just rotate the scrum every single time.
No, exactly. I thought this would have been one of the scrums we might see someone just pop up into the middle of the air, turn into a line out. You know what I mean? Just a scrum line out. Just, but no, look, all right. Returning in this one, Jordan Petaia was back for Harry. How good. He returned just after missing last week because he had his father passed away, unfortunately. And wow, they love having Jordan Petaia back. He looked incredible.
It looked like their first half strategy was get the ball to Petaia. I was loving it.
It's like they've heard our podcast before because we've said that the Reds' entire strategy should be get Jordan Petaia the ball, and they were doing that. So no, otherwise injured in this one. Hunter Paisami did an MCL. James O'Connor bruised his sternum. Don't know what that entails really. And Matty Tamua
on the sternum.
It's actually, I'll tell you what it's from. It's because he ran the ball so much. James O'Connor made 14 runs for 110 metres. It's crazy for a fly.
I don't reckon it was the running that hurt his sternum. It might have been getting tackled or something along those lines.
Well, generally, Nelson, if you want me to explain how fantasy rugby works for you, you only get a run counted if you get tackled. If you pass the ball, it doesn't count.
I still don't think it was the running that hurt him.
Yeah, so the run ended in some contact.
To be fair, that's why Richie Moe never gets tackled because he never gets injured because he never gets tackled.
That's true. Well, yeah, all right. And Matty Tamua, he went out there to hit a few people, but there were a lot more physical Reds players. So he suffered a concussion. I don't remember the exact incident, but it was probably several.
He does not remember it either.
That was the one that looked pretty serious. They ended up going off and giving him a scan and looking for a serious neck injury as well. And
he's been passed. He's passed the scan. He's no serious neck injury.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. So, look, we've talked about Petaia. He was great. Jock Campbell was awesome as well. He just has that kind of, he just glides. He has that running, gliding style and just slices through some gaps. So he's been great for them. We talked about the scrums. They were pretty rock solid. The game really, look, all you need to know, the first half, it was kind of, there was a lot of forcings back, a lot of kicking for territory. The Reds scored 2 tries. The Rebels just unable to. They had, I think it was 1 or 2 disallowed, 2 or 3, I don't know, a few disallowed tries. Nazarani, very unlucky. A massive scrum drive over, put it on James O'Connor's boot instead of grounding it. So that was, ended up knocking that one on. But the second half was super interesting. And there's really just one tweet from Greg Clark, the commentator, that summarises it. And it was that the Reds had 9% possession in the entire second half. They had 7 runs compared to the Rebels' 101, yet they were the team that managed to score a try in the second half.
That's absurd.
Wowzers.
I mean, their defense was inspiring, to be honest. It was some of the best I can ever remember seeing at Super Rugby level. It was at that level where, like the England versus New Zealand at the World Cup, obviously not against as class opposition, but it was just so brave and so physical. And
it was the second best defensive effort you'd seen on the weekend, wasn't it, Harry?
Yeah, that's right. Pioneer Rugby just pipped them.
The same stats as in the second half, I think.
Yeah, but it was led by Taniela Tupou. Like that guy, I just you think that you can't be any more impressed by a prop, and it does that. Like, oh my God, we talked about the battle with him and Pony, and Pony's a freak, but Tupou was completely all over him. Like he won every single contact throughout the entire game, in attack, in defence, at the ruck, and at the scrum. It's unbelievable. He's the best prop in the world.
He's 100% the best prop in the world. He has to start for the Wallabies, and he has just matured so much, it's ridiculous. And he's 24, guys. He's 24. Like, he could have another 8 years easily at Wallabies level, Like, maybe not because he's too big. Like, I don't know how long a man of that size can play for at that level, but he has got to be starting for the Wallabies.
That's true. Look, you know how exciting he is if it's not even me talking him up the whole time. I think one of the keys thing you've just said about him starting, whilst we've had Brumbies captain and Wallabies veteran Allan Alaalatoa on the podcast, and he is fantastic, and we said one of the top 3 props in the world. I think you can cast aside any doubt about Tupou being an impact player at the end of the game because Brad Thorne has played him for practically 80 minutes every game the last 2 years or so. So the man can play the whole game. Not an issue.
Absolutely. And hey, quick shout out. I was going to say Jock Campbell as well. How good the grubber across field in his own try line to set up. I think it ended up in a try, didn't it?
May have. Not sure.
Either way, it was a huge break. It was just so good.
Sorry, I was desperately trying to find just then how many tries Tupou scored because he's definitely leading for like props in Super Rugby, I think, but he's heading into like forward top try scorers. You know, Scott Higginbotham, I think, from the Reds leads the most tries scored by any forward, but I reckon Tupou's going to head up there. So Finger obviously is someone right up there, right as well. But
can I just float an idea to you guys? So as far as Allan Alaalatoa for quite some time in his younger years, up until being professional, was a loose head prop. Can we shift him back to loose head prop? Because he is playing over CO by far in I think everything on the field. And yes, we've got Slipper there as well. You've got other guys coming through with all, but I mean, we want him on the field as much as we can.
Look,
I'm sure we can transition back.
I'm not going to lie. That's not the worst idea, Nelson. That is, I'm about that. So I'm just surprised that I'm agreeing with you on something. So that's great. But look, in rounding out this game, Brett Cronin, fantastic TMO. I think the commentators were saying George Ayoub should be looking over his shoulder. Mate, George Ayoub should be looking over his shoulder for the last few years because if I ever see that man, I swear to God, he's the worst TMO that exists. But so the stats in a second, we've said the carries and everything, but yeah, Rebels had 88% possession, 94% territory. That is insane. If you don't win a game with those stats in the second half, what are you doing? You haven't playing footy. Run meters, 377 to 617. That's the Reds to the Rebels. So the Rebels almost double.
Wait, hold on. The Rebels didn't make as many run meters with 85% possession or whatever it was compared to either the Highlanders or the Hurricanes in their game.
Yep, that's correct. Speaks volumes. Tackle bus 20 to 29. So the Reds still had more tackle bus as well with no carries. Fair enough. It was 13 to 6 penalties. That'll do for the game stats. Fantasy stats. Fantasy man of the match, Matty Phillip, 62 points, 20 runs for 80 metres, 2 tackle busts, an offload, and 5 tackles. So he really got through some work. Normally he makes a lot of tackles, but he really got through the carries for the Rebels. Just obviously he got all of their metres, 80 of their 200, 300 something metres. Brandon Panga-Amosa, 55 points, even after a yellow card, did bag himself a try. So Harry was cheering. It was an up and down moment for Harry there. James O'Connor, 48 points. As I mentioned, big game from him. The battle for the Wallabies fly half, is still on. Tamua or James O'Connor.
Or Harrison.
Or Harrison, yep. Taniela Tupou, 47 points. Lukan Salakaia-Loto, 47. And for the Rebs, Cameron Orr and Frank Lamani. And Cameron Orr is someone who's Harry's talked up a little bit. Look, he's been great, actually. So he's someone to watch for the future. All right, Nelson, the Blues Crusaders game, boom, cancelled. Thank you, Nelson. And we are now on to our main course.
Harry, mate, how dare you cut Harry off? He said he was going to do all the Kiwi games.
Yeah, I was going to do that one. Had a lot
You're
to
such
say,
a pig.
That's all right.
Very good. Well, you have to read it in the OG League blog, but some of our drafters didn't get the message that the Blues Crusaders game may not be on, and in fact doubled down. I believe Wiley decided to have, I think it was 9 players in that game.
No, they didn't. It's not that. It was Wiley just knew that he couldn't make a full side, so his best chance of winning was to pray that the game went through. And so he just loaded up on that team, knowing that if they did play, he had fantastic, fantastic players. He lived and died by the virus.
He did. And it's cost him a place in the finals. He was number 3 last week. So bad. All right. Now, for main course, let's look at Super Rugby AU Round 8. The bye will be the Rebels. They need to go back and learn how to play some rugby. And the first game will be the Force and the Reds. Who would like to kick us off with this one? Nels?
Yeah, look, I'll happily start us off. In terms of the people we're expecting to return, Alex Murphy, we're expecting he will return to the starting side, well, not the starting side, return to the squad for the Reds. I just want to point out, do you guys know the guy that filled in for him on the weekend, Sean Farrell, made his debut? He is now the fastest Reds forward who took that over, I think it was over 10 metres, or no, it was to his top speed, took that from the Tongan Thor, the previous fastest Reds forward. And they're talking about his speeds are just absolutely absurd. Yeah.
You're right.
Well, since he's taking something from the Tongan Thor, I'm going to pretend it didn't happen and find out how to wipe that from the record book so that remains the Tongan Thor's.
To be fair, he weighs half of the Tongan Thor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no one can weigh as much as the Tongan Thor, but he is a hooker. But look, this last game was 24-31 to the Reds, so the Force were very much in this. It was 4 tries apiece. The biggest telling stat for me is that the Reds had double the tackle busts, 34-17. So although the game was pretty close, obviously the Force needed to buckle down in their defence a little bit, because that is atrocious numbers. And the Force lost 4 to 14 lineouts, 4 or 14 lineouts.
Yep.
So, yeah, another thing that we've said has been pretty weak for them. It was pretty weak for them last weekend.
It's not a bad matchup for them, though. Like, the Reds are obviously struggling at line-out time as well. I know 4 from 14 losses is not great, but it's a truckload better than what they've been doing against the other sides.
I was about to say, so 4 from 14 was last time against the Reds, but they've gotten worse since then. Last week, they lost 8 line-outs against the Tars, as we mentioned before. So they're going to need to do something in that area, because giving away 8 sets of line-out possession is just too much. Like, line-outs are such a great platform. You can't be giving that away.
This could well be the game where we see teams just going for scrums, because neither of them can actually line out properly. So it'll be interesting to see. Look, Jake, is it Jake Strawn?
Strachan. No one knows how to say his name.
I think Jake Strawn, if you're going off the Scottish pronunciation. He was actually really quite good on his debut, I think. Jack McGregor came on the last 10 or so, was it? Or last quarter?
He played the last 20, but he came on at fly half.
And played fly half. But do you guys think that Strawn did enough? He was quite good there at 15.
Look, I think he probably did. Like McGregor, I'm a big fan of McGregor, and I thought he'd been great throughout the season. But no, Strawn had a really good game. He just looked really settled. He was always in the right areas of the field, defensively. And there's a few times, look, he put this awesome little chip through, regathered it perfectly. He set up quite a few offensive plays. So I thought he was really good, and I think he might well have earned himself another start, which, we'll see. McGregor he's great to have on the bench, because he's been a fly half most of his career. He now applies his trade at fullback, but, it's awesome having him on the bench to come in and inject anywhere.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
I think it just depends if if they were just giving him some game time, or if he's actually pushing for a regular starting spot. But he did play well.
Yeah, I'm quite a fan of Jack McGregor, to be fair. I'd like to see him back in that starting side. Look, that centre pairing finally sort of clicked a little bit more for them. I know everything didn't go their way on the weekend, but we did see some positives coming out of Godwin and Kahui. Kahui, as we spoke about a little bit earlier, he actually really got quite involved, and it was really good to see. And Godwin, I think he had a really solid game. Do you think these guys can reproduce what they did, I think, individually, and that better connection between them on the weekend?
Well, I think Kahui, some of the skills he was showing was absolute class, and just fantastic. But Godwin, I mean, that's got to be Godwin's standout performance in Super Rugby.
His return, yeah.
I think maybe it was just the kind of audition for the Waratahs we're joining next week. He's like, but he was great. For me, it was whether he can reproduce that form, because he was into everything. That's the most hungry I've ever seen him. He went looking, and he really got into, was making some brilliant carries all over the shop. But Kahui, I thought I put a note in here just in case we didn't talk about it in the review, but mate, he's 35 years old and he ran down winger Alex Newsom to stop a try. I mean, Newsom had been going slowly up in my books purely because he happened to be on my roster and scoring tries, but he got the ball with heaps of space and he got ran down by old man fisherman Kahui. It was ridiculous. So Kahui's he's still hungry.
The thing for me is Kahui's defense is still physical, but he doesn't run the same hard lines he used to.
Yeah.
He really expanded his game. And I think you're right. You mentioned his short kicking game, I think, has been excellent for them.
Yeah.
I just think if there's a game where you probably don't want to be putting short kicks in, it's to Jock Campbell and Pataya and to Dungunu. Like,
Great point.
They're a dangerous back three if they're not pinpoint accurate. So, I think that's an opportunity for them for sure with how well his short kicking game has been, but it could really be a dangerous way to play as well.
Off the back of that, I think it would probably be a great game to bring. I don't think they will, but Nick Juiced back in, because I thought he'd been absolutely brilliant. But also, if you want some territory as well, he has a cannon of a boot, Nick Juiced. So I thought it could be a good shout to bring him back in for that. But,
yeah, but they're not going to. Surely they won't play him over Kahui.
No, I can't see them doing it. But no, I just think that's a good point. He is a strong ball carrier, very strong defensively as well. But I think.
Maybe they can play Juice to give him a go, or someone needs to have a go over John O'Lance at 10. Everyone was singing his praises when he first came in to the side for the Western Force, but I think we're starting to see his biggest weakness at a 10, and that is he always wants to play flat. He doesn't pick the tempo of the game. He threw another intercept on the weekend, the right to left, and obviously Maddox just picked it up and ran away with it. And it was so obvious. Like he's trying to throw a double cut out to a winger when it was a 3-on-2, and Maddox just knew it was coming. Everyone knows he plays flat, even off slow ball, and everyone knows he wants to throw the glory cutout. I think he's making too many really costly errors, and I think McGregor or Juiced or someone has to be an option to try and take some of that time away, and it's probably why we saw McGregor get 20 minutes as well.
Yeah, I think at this level, Lance he doesn't seem to mix his game up well enough. It's great intent to want to play flat, but if you're doing it game after game, and in rugby, Super Rugby AU, these guys are only, having to watch 4 other sides and see how they're playing. Like it's not hard in this sort of period of time to pick up his faults, and he's just not mixing it up. So it's quite an easy thing to pick off, I think. There will also potentially be some changes in that red centre pairing because with Paisami's injury, we might see Pataya slot into that 13 jersey, and then we could have Bryce Hegarty come back in a fullback, Jock Campbell go back to the wing, even though I prefer him definitely in that wing spot. But I think that's probably going to offer a little bit of a different sort of attacking point, focal point. As you said, they want to give Pataya the ball as much as possible. So getting him in that little bit tighter as well, and I think that's a positive for them.
I think the flip side is Josh Fluke that came in off the bench for Paisami stood up. I think his defense was physical. I think he looked pretty solid. He's only 18 years old. They always say in the commentary he was the captain of the under-18 side that beat New Zealand last year. He's a very talented outside centre. And if there's ever an opportunity to give him a run, it's obviously against the Force as well.
So it wasn't a fluke then?
Nice, mate. Nice. Yeah, so I didn't actually understand that his position was in the centres. I thought he was back 3.
Yeah, no, he's an outside centre.
Okay.
No, there you go. And then just checking, there's no CFS is no chance. He's still that injured.
We've heard nothing more about his calf tear. So I think it's only been 2 or 3 weeks. So
yeah, it hasn't been long.
Yeah. Unlikely at this stage, I would say.
For me, I think another thing is Wilson's been a little bit quiet of late. I know you guys disagreed with me last time I said this. He was involved a fair bit in his tackling on the weekend, but just hasn't been making those barnstorming runs and breaking the line and throwing offloads like he had in previous weeks. This is a game that back row for the Force, they're going to really want to keep that trend going. You don't want to see him bounce back and have a massive week because it's going to be pretty tough on them. For the Reds, they also had Mick Wright slot back into that back row, and he was immense. He was absolutely brilliant, I thought.
Is he fast becoming your favourite player?
Mate, he probably was before he took the field, not going to lie. I'm just a big fan of Mick Wright, and to see him and McDermott get the start, I think that was two very important things for them. Mind you, I think Angus Scott Young has been quite good, and it's probably been a good dynamic in that back row with him there, but Mick Wright for me is definitely earned another start.
That's it. And I think the Force will just have to take a page out of the Waratahs book. Lockie Swinton particularly was just all over Harry Wilson, just giving him no time or space. He just made it his mission in that game to mark him up every time he was in line for a carry. So that's the Force have got some big back rowers who are more than capable of doing that. They just have to really get on him.
So, boys, how do you see this one going? Can you see anything other than what we're all expecting?
I see the Reds winning this game.
How much?
I reckon the Reds will win it by 14 points.
Sorry?
Yeah, I mean, it's in Queensland. It's on the Sunshine Coast, right? So it's a short drive down the road for them. It's not really a tough trip for them as it would have been if they were still in the Hunter or something like that and Queensland had to fly. So I think that's definitely a big plus for Queensland Reds. And I think it's going to take a brave man to tip the Force's first win successfully. So, yeah, I'm going to go Reds. And I reckon the same. I think they're going to the Force will start to get a bit weary from being away from home for so long and the scores are starting to pile up on them. I'm going to go 16 points.
Yeah, I'm similar in that mindset. I think it's getting away from them, whereas the Reds they really put a good sort of full match in terms of attack, defence, and what they're offering around the paddock. I'm going to say Reds by 22.
And I put it out there, if the Reds lose this game, they don't play finals. They'd have to beat both the Brumbies and the Rebels in the run home. It's not going to happen.
No.
This, of course, being a Force home game in the Sunshine Coast. Just trying to get as close as possible to the sun to replicate Perth, really. That's about it. Excellent. All right. Well, let's get on to the second fixture of the weekend. Second and there's no more fixtures. The Brumbies and the Waratahs. Harry, do you want to run us through this game?
Yeah. So we've got a few people with a bit of an injury cloud over their head. I think Caderon Neville has missed a few weeks in a row now.
You mean Caden Neville? Or?
Yeah. Caden. Yeah, that's the man. Who cares? Nah, I'm joking. Credit to him. He's been okay this year. There's some mixed stuff on the internet saying that, he'd flown to Japan and now has come back and has been training with the side for 2 weeks. That doesn't really add up. I feel like that's probably false. I think he probably picked up an injury in the first week or two of Super Rugby AU, but if he is back training with the side, then obviously I expect him to come back probably via the bench. I think Darcy Swain and Nick Frost have been really good and they'll keep giving them game time. They obviously see those two as the future. Tom Ross as well, I doubt that he'll be on the bench even if he's fit. I think he was only in there because CEO was injured.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had that bad concussion, but again, it's been a couple of weeks, so you'd expect if he is available, then if Scott Sear is not, then he'll be on the bench.
My mistake, it was Slipper. Sear was there. Sear was starting.
Slipper.
Still haven't seen the guy I was excited about, Shambek Lavui. Haven't seen him all season.
Yeah, it's good.
Shouldn't have left the Tars, mate.
What are you going to do?
Oh, well.
And then Rob Ballatini as well, he limped off the field a couple of weeks ago before the bye, and we just heard nothing. And I mean, generally, I feel like Super Rugby AU has been pretty good with their announcements, and the Brumbies especially. So the fact that we've heard nothing means I feel like he's more than likely going to be okay to play, but we don't really know.
Still not as good as the Stormers sending us their direct injury report press releases. The other teams need to still take notes from them.
Pick up your game, Super Rugby AU. The last time these guys played, the Brumbies got up 24-23, and I think this was a testament to the Waratahs not knowing how to win a game more than anything else. They were the dominant side for 50 or 60 minutes, and then they just refused to put any points on the board with their dominance in the last 20 to 30, and the Brumbies managed to snatch one at the death. And I think it was a real blueprint for the other teams on how to play the Brumbies this year. And, you know, if they can repeat the kind of form that they showed last week and the first time they played the Brumbies, then they're in with a really, really good shout. Despite me saying that, you know, the stats were definitely in the Brums' favour last time. I think they had almost 60% of possession. They had 450 to 300 run meters, you know, 27 to 15 tackle busts. So they were really good at running the ball, but they couldn't get the ball over the line because the Waratahs just run it up physically. So it's going to be a big test for the Waratahs' defence, and I think that's where the game will be made or lost for the Waratahs.
But this was pre-Jake Gordon Waratahs. So I call it the Jake Gordon Renaissance for the Waratahs. His return has seen them playing some proper rugby.
Well, he's averaging 2 tries a game since he's come back.
He is. In fact, denied last week. Ridiculous. But no. So we've now got the attacking weapon back.
That's
the flare.
Big.
The tinder has been ignited.
Look, the Tars have got 2 games left. They've got this and they've got the Rebels. And I think it's pretty obvious that they need to win one of those 2 games with 4 teams pushing for 3 spots in the finals.
Yeah. One win, I think, almost assures them a spot, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100% it does.
Yep.
Yeah. So if they can get a bonus point win, then they would be locked in. I think it is. So I think that's a big one. But at the same time, like the Brumbies, who have been pretty comfortable all season, if they lose this, then most likely, if the Reds get a win, going to find themselves down in 3rd place as well. So it's a big game with a lot of on the line as we get towards the kind of pointy end of this Super Rugby AU season. And I think both teams won't be lacking motivation on the back of that. You know, the Brumbies have had 2 weeks to kind of work out what the hell went wrong for them 2 weeks ago against the Rebels. Is that right?
Rebels.
I love that. You got a 50% chance. The rare.
Yeah.
The Rebels. The Reds definitely didn't beat them.
Yeah, but anyway, so I mean, there's as the Reds showed last week, you know, having 2 weeks to try and right the wrongs of a big loss is definitely something that can turn a team around. Waratahs.
I'm sorry, I'm a bit slow on cutting in, but I was just going to say the importance of finishing top in the conference is because it's the top 3 that go through, and the top team gets a rest while the 2 and 3 play it out for the right to play the minor premiers. So that's a big deal. Really.
Well, the Waratahs might have to throw one because they don't want to have a bye and then a rest week off as well. They won't play for 2 weeks.
They'll all go on holiday. It's true.
Yeah. So you got HJH. We all reckon he's going to get a start again. I think they were just kind of rotating him out, give him a little bit of a rest. So he should come back in. He's been excellent. Great to get off the bench again. If you've got a man that you want to give the ball to 2 meters out to try and burrow over the line, it seems to be him at the moment. He's just got this knack of getting himself through the line and over. To me, the one that I would really like to see from the Brumbies, if they're going to, you know, pull their trump card, is Nick White. Been training with the side for 2 or 3 weeks now. I don't believe that they'll start him. I think it is just too much of a kick in the guts to Joe Powell, but bringing him on for 30, 35 minutes to close the game out with his superior kicking game as well, especially when you got a team that so heavily relies on field position like the Brumbies, I think he'll be massive for them if they can get him on the park.
That box kick.
Yeah, agree.
And speaking of the kicking games, you got Jack Maddox, and James Ram, who have been kicking very well. Will Harrison as well. You got Tom Banks, who has been kicking these huge touch finders for penalty as well. There's going to be a good kicking battle in this one, and I think the line-out's going to play a really, really important role off the back of that as well. So obviously the Brumbies scoring a fair few of their tries from rolling mauls. And the Tars, I think, with probably the best defensive line out in Super Rugby AU by a pretty decent margin. I think Ned Hannigan and Ross Simmons have been pretty exceptional in that area, which, you know, there's not a lot of areas those two would normally be associated with that word. So excellent from them in that regard. And look, I think I mentioned the Waratahs defence earlier as well. If they can front up, I think the backup plan for the Brumbies has to be their rolling maul. So I think that's a huge, huge weapon for them. And if the 2 key areas for me in this game are the Waratahs defence in tackling and the Waratahs defensive line out as well. So huge factors for this game for me.
Yep. Yeah, I think the importance of Maddox and Ram, that kicking game is going to be huge. you can't lose a territory battle to the Brumbies. That's where the game will be won or lost for mine, really. If they're down that end, then they're going to get them some lineouts, and they're going to get over.
You guys, I don't think you're going to necessarily lean the way that I'm leaning here. I think my New South Welshman-ness is going to come out here. I think the Brumbies have definitely looked like they've got a few little issues. They haven't been as clinical as they have in the past. So for me, the Tars are buzzing. The Tars are this is going to be their best chance to get a win over the Brumbies in a long time, and they know they need a win here to make the finals. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the Tars take this one by a kick in the final 5 minutes. Will Harrison's kicking absolutely everything, so I think it's going to be a kick that wins it. They're going to win within 3 points, and that's it for me. I might be dreaming.
Mate, no, look, I actually, again, this is the second time in one podcast, perhaps ever, that I've said I'm going to agree with Nelson Dale.
Wowza.
I think, look, yeah, as you said, the Brumbies have not been the clinical team we thought they were. A lot of chinks in the armour. Their line-out maul is fantastic, but the rest of their set piece and just their composure hasn't quite been there, is how I felt about it. So, I'm going to back the Tars, the Jake Gordon Renaissance, mate. Just that he literally has. It's like he has lit a fire under their ass. Just the attack, like twofold. Everyone is keen. He's got all these options, bodies in motion, and the difference he makes in keeping the defence honest around the ruck is enormous. And he just knows, when to test them and runs these awesome supporting lines. So. I've got the Waratahs jersey back on, the fair weather fans. I'm calling it for the boys. The Waratahs by 7.
I hope you're right, but I am going to disagree. The Brumbies have been a bit off the pace, but they're a very well-drilled club. I think 2 weeks is a long time for them to kind of turn their form around, and I think this might be the kick-start to the rest of their season as the clear favourites for the competition. I think we might get to see why this week, despite the Waratahs, having improved a lot. I also think the Waratahs are a very inexperienced team. When they play well, they seem to back it up with a bad game after that. I don't think that Western Force quite counts as 2 good games in a row, despite them playing reasonably well. Excuse me, I'm choking myself up here, saying the Waratahs might lose. But I know when they played really well against the Brumbies last week, and they, despite the loss, they were really happy with themselves. And Rob Simmons was really critical about the fact that they were happy with that loss. They didn't show up the next week, and they got absolutely dusted by the Rebels. I think it was 10-29, but they were never in it. And my worry is that will happen again, and the Brumbies will just be a little bit too clinical.
Yeah, look, I think it's one of the last 4 matches, one of the last 5 matches that the Tars, or even 6, that the Tars haven't been either winning or very close. They had one slip up against the Rebels, and I think that's the only time they really have slipped up. But yeah, I mean, I feel very much like the easy money to go for the Brumbies. I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but I think if it's the Tars are just putting things together, they needed this boost, and they needed something to click, and it has happened. So if this is not the time that they come buzzing into this game, come out of those gates firing, and try to take a bit of a lead early on against the Brumbies, which is something we know the Tars have always been able to do, even when they've struggled, they've still been able to, get that first try too early on in the match and start to take a bit of lead. It's just, for me, they are the scissors to the Brumbies paper in the sense with their lineouts and their defence. The driving maul isn't going to be something that the Brumbies can fall back on, because the Tars know how to steal a lineout. So it's a big call, and I'm surprised Cargie backed me, but let's throw our money on the Tars for once. Every time, but let's hope that they get us a big win this time.
The one guy I'm surprised we got this far without mentioning, Jack Dempsey. His return to form has been insane.
That's
been really disappointing for a long stretch on the back of a couple of injuries to the last few weeks. He's been fantastic.
He's been brilliant. Yeah.
I agree. And look, the strongest point for this game is you said something about only 4 or 5 games. I thought you were going to say there's only a handful of games left that we have to endure watching Rob Simmons play because he's taking off. So, that's what I'm excited about.
I've said it a few times. I've been really impressed with him. I think he's been really good for the Waratahs.
Oh, sorry, we're experiencing technical difficulties. Harry's talking some nonsense. So we might move on to...
you can bleep that one out.
Yeah. This is a family podcast, mate. We can't have that kind of language, right? All right. No, and with that, on that bombshell, let's move on to desserto. And for dessert, we're going to do 2 things. We're going to look at the top 3 performers in each position, the 3 fantasy performers based on their total points over the seasons. The Super Rugby Aotearoa complete season and 7 rounds so far of Super Rugby AU. And then we're going to look at what teams they came from. And then we'll finish off by just taking you through how our fantasy final series works. Look, Harry can explain the finals playoffs and Nelson can explain the spoon playoffs. So,
as the manager's most accustomed to those formats.
Correct. Very good. All right. Well, Nell, since you teed this up for us, do you want to kick us off with our top fantasy performers?
Yeah, that's something I can do here, mate. I wrote all their names on it, but we'll ignore that. Look, what I think we're doing really is just the 3 top points of the season, right? So, yes, there's a few things. The Brumbies and Blues didn't play on the back end. Some teams have had more buys than others. That is all not taken into consideration. And we're just looking at who over these 7 weeks got you the most points if you picked them up. So in the outside backs column, the man this is surprising, not because of his class, but because of the amount of matches he actually started, not something we would necessarily picked. Will Jordan is the top outside back with 287 points. Followed up by Geordie Barrett with 260 and Jonah Nareki with 251.
I'm happy to say I'm not surprised.
How many games did he start? I feel like Will would have started most games.
He actually started all bar 1.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I suppose a season-ending injury to Hivili was a little bit helpful.
I had to make some phone calls, put some phone calls in to make that happen. But look, here we are today. So... Harry, do you want to take us to the centres then?
Yeah, wow. I can't believe this, especially when I traded him away for Braden Enor, who I got 1 average game out of. Peter Umanga Jensen top scored for the centres with 206 points. Now, the man that was in second was clearly going to be first if he didn't break his hand. Nani Laumape with 190 points just behind him. And Jack Goodhue, surprisingly 167. I didn't think his form was too good for the first half of Aotearoa. But, he came home strong and he hogged the ball and threw a lot of offloads. So.
It's not a lot of points in that centres column. I think that's why we find them there, like the 191 is not huge.
Well, no, not at all, especially when Nareki got 251 and he played a fair few games off the bench as well.
Yeah.
I'll say Peter Umanga Jensen's definitely growing on me. I was a huge fan of his brother Thomas Umanga Jensen for the Highlanders, and
why?
I mean, I said maybe a year ago, I can't wait to have both of them as my fantasy centres. Just have the Umanga Jensens. I just they're immense, but Peter Umanga Jensen is huge. He is so physical. And
aren't they identical twins?
I think so, but
I don't know if they're both massive though.
They definitely look very similar and brothers. We've got that much information for you. That's the kind of detail you can expect on this podcast. But no, Laumape, is he going to be robbed of an All Blacks jersey again? Or do you think he'll, by the time they can play some test footy, he's still in with a shot? Because he's definitely perhaps the form back of New Zealand rugby at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. It just depends if they fit their game plan, right? Like Anton Leonard-Brown has still been solid. Jack Goodhue's been excellent and looks like he wants to be a 12 moving forward. So I think Jack Goodhue probably fits the mold of the All Blacks kind of team game a little bit better. And I mean, Peter Umanga Jensen probably isn't in that conversation just yet.
Just yet. Just you wait. No. Very good. All right. Well, I'll jump in with fly halves then. only a few points ahead of everyone, just a couple. The top fantasy player and my first pick was Richie Mo'unga, 384 points.
You could at least pronounce his name right.
Mo'unga.
Well, look, Richie's happy for me to say his name in whichever way I please.
Incorrectly.
And anyway, that's huge from a fly half. I mean, he kicks all his goals. He's not afraid to just run the ball whenever he pleases, and he's in the best team in world rugby. So what else can you really want?
That's a very good point, David Kugrig.
Thank you. A man who perhaps if it was in the same team would be doing as well. No, Will Harrison, 226 points. He's incredible. Let's just take a second to appreciate that he's just turned 20. He's just come off a under 20s campaign, and he's just taken the mantle of a Super Rugby team on his shoulders, and has really been one of the shining light for the Waratahs. The way he's controlled around that group of men. He's kicked 27 from 29 goals. He has been absolutely outstanding. So
he's definitely developed throughout this, and his understanding of when to attack the line, when to play flat, when to play a little bit deeper. I think something for me, I think that's developed a little bit more through this. I think at the start of
He plays too deep.
He does still play too deep. I do agree with that. But at the start of the season, he never really seemed to take the line anywhere near as much as he has throughout the back end. So he's definitely developing into that. And how good is it to see a Aussie kicker with percentage like that?
93%.
It's very refreshing. I think there's been a lot of comparisons drawn to a young Bernard Foley. I guess they're of a similar stature, but just the running game is a little similar. I mean, if we're talking about the latest of Bernard Foley, Will Harrison, at least his kicks for touch go out and his kicks for goal go in. So huge pluses for the youngster. And rounding us out, we have Mitch Hunt, the man who went down to Dunedin for a chance at a starting jersey to not get a starting jersey. Josh Ioane usurping him, but he managed to start a couple of games there, and then in at fullback, which we weren't too sure about. But look, I think he was a fantastic fullback as well. Certainly proved us wrong in that regard. He was on 191 points.
I think he's a class player. He's just that 1 yard off being as quick as someone like Josh Ioane or someone to take that first spot. I think he's got all the skills. He's just that tiny bit lesser version.
The little legs, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And look, we've got a special shout out here to Harry Plummer, who managed to bag minus 18 points from 4 matches, which is, look, that's of a Nick Phipps type record there. That's pretty.
The most impressive thing of that is I think he got 2 positive scores, and he got a minus 18 in one of his games and another minus in his other game.
Did he feature heavily in your fantasy team? Because
he should have, but he didn't score any big scores before. If he did, then he would have been on my team.
Fantastic. All right. Well, how about we jump on to scrum halves, Nelson?
Yeah, look, I think this is the second player of the season here. Aaron Smith with 308. That guy's all class, and he was brilliant throughout this whole period. A guy that sits a little bit back from him, Tait McDermott with 253. He was heartbreaking for me, getting dropped to the bench for a few weeks. It made absolutely no sense. And as soon as he comes back into that starting side, he was brilliant once again. And he was the top halfback until he went into that bench spot.
Until he went into hiding.
Yeah. And then I think he must have got a hiding from Brad Thorne, and that's why you could put it there. And then TJ Perenara, also a class act, playing a fair bit of fly half in the back end of games as well with 228.
Can you guys remember, I'd say after the first few games of Super Rugby Aotearoa, it was like, it had felt like Aaron Smith and TJ Perenara had been getting closer and closer every year. And at the first few games, you thought TJ was absolutely crushing it. But Aaron Smith has just come back with a vengeance the second half of this season and has been one of the best players in world rugby in these last few games has been absolute class.
Yeah, it's the best form I can ever imagine seeing him. Like I can remember seeing him, and I've agreed with many that he's been the best halfback in the world for the majority of the last 10 years.
Yeah. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Very good. All right, Harry, do you want to jump into the back rows? Or should I just say them since they're my players?
I think Harry would be pumped if he was in. Harry would get hurt if he was in the back row, but go jump in, Harry.
True. Look, Shannon Frizzell, 305, top scored for the back row. And I think this is something that all of us thought was possible, but none of us expected to actually happen. He's been really, really good in Aotearoa. And it's been awesome to see him step up. I feel like he's got to be the favourite for the blindside flanker jersey for New Zealand now on the back of that. Second place was the pre-season original Super Rugby back row's top scorer, Artie Sevilla, with 255 points. It took him a few weeks to get going from his knee injury, but he's just been getting better and better. And I think it's fair to say he's probably about 100 points shy of what he would have been without a knee injury. So kind of back to his top form now. And Liam Wright with 249, captaining the Reds so well. Just in absolutely everything, and been bagging some tries as well, which is probably a little bit out of character for him, but has boosted up his score.
Yep. And I think what's important with him is he's been just consistent. So he hasn't had, I don't think he might have, but I don't think he's had any really blow the lights out type scores, but he's just been consistently performing, obviously playing 80 minutes week in, week out as captain. He's been rock solid.
But he's 40-point right. That's what he is. 41-point average.
How good. All right. Well, I will do the locks then. We had, it was led by Lukan Salakai-Loto with 252 points. I think he just identified that the Wallabies lock jersey is up for grabs and is probably now definitely his. So he has been great. I think perhaps... I don't know if he's quite got his body height down enough yet. Yeah. Still call him the tall building, the way he runs into contact, but certainly no lack of physicality there under Brad Thorne's tutelage. And he's been going from strength to strength. I think he's a lock and not a 6, but that's for mine. Matty Phillip, 210 points. You'd have to think I think he is going overseas now, but if he wasn't, he would be the other favourite for the Wallabies locking jersey. So he had 210 points. Fergus Lee Warner, 204, so not very far behind. He's been doing, it's been him and Henry Stowers doing all of the carries and all of the work for the force. He was a little quiet last week, but a couple of weeks before that, he was getting well over 50-point games, just getting through a mountain of carries and tackles. He's been very, very good. And in a similar vein as to before, we have another special mention to Jed Holloway. So minus 14 points from 2 games. So are we sure that's Jed Holloway? It's not Rob Simmons? Is that
it's definitely Jed Holloway, mate. Okay, all right. Rob Simmons has been good.
Old mate Jed. All right. And I probably should have saved myself for props, but I forget who we're up to now. We're back to Harry or is it Nelson?
Me, mate.
Nelson? Yeah.
It's not that complicated. Look at Harry Johnson Holmes took this one out, 203 points. A guy that Harry's been frothing on and I'm a huge fan of, and Cargie's confused about because he's not massive in Pacific Islander. Cameron Orr, he tied it up with Ofatunga Fasi with 159 points, which is actually a fair bit of a drop-off from HJH, who I don't know if he started every game, did he?
It was only the one game he started. He came off the bench, yeah. But look, Cameron Orr and Ofatunga Fasi have been even on points, but I'm going to give the starting position hands down to Offa. Like his form has been ridiculous.
Yeah, and if you got double points for bigger hits, he'd be getting double points every day.
Him and Taniela Tupou, like if they were in the same team, you wouldn't run the ball, would you?
Yeah, that's it.
He was unlucky to not get a game this weekend, which would have put him definitely ahead of Cameron Orr.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Hookers?
Yeah, so...
who knows the most about hookers?
Cody Taylor, he's decided he doesn't do lineouts anymore, but other than that, his running game has, I don't know about gone to a new level because it's always been very good, but he's so involved in the open play. It's just out of character for a front rower. I know the game's going this way, but it's awesome to see him get better and better in the loose. So 255 points for him. And then the Prince that was promised.
That was Cody Taylor, by the way. I just think we were talking over you, so they might not have heard that.
Yeah, right. And the Prince that was promised. Can't believe you cut me off, mate, on your favourite lead into any player. The Prince that was promised, Jordan Ulisi, tied with Ash Dixon at 235 points, so narrowly behind as well. And once again, I'm just going to give this bench spot to Ash Dixon because I don't believe Jordan Ulisi's in the same ballpark.
No, I agree.
What amazes me about Jordan Ulisi is that at least he has been playing each game this season, but he still seems to be injured every game this season.
Yeah.
But he's just playing at least. Like, I don't know what is.
Does an ankle or does something
He's made a tinfoil or something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what's going on. But
a man that was, I just want to give a special mention, not the special mentions Cargie's been giving out, but to Tom Horton. He got an average of 35 with a few off the bench, and he was only a little bit shy of Ash Dixon in terms of things like points per minute, far above people like Jordan Ulisi. But he's been a guy that came out absolutely nowhere, and I think he's been a real big positive for the Waratahs.
And even more impressive that he did that in your fantasy team.
Yeah. Imagine how good he would have been otherwise.
Oh,
I have to say, I really like him, actually. I'm excited about him. It had been kind of not much to get excited about in the Waratahs hooking department for a little bit. So the prospect of him excites me. But a very not commonly known fact, he's actually related to Olympian Mac Horton, the swimmer.
Is that right?
No, I just made that up. But,
got
him, yeah! Woo-hoo.
That's a great fact, Cargie. I didn't realise you had a really good fact.
Come on, mate. We don't do any preparation for this podcast.
We were all talking early on in the year that the Waratahs needed to get one of those Brumby stocks of hookers, but stuff them, they can all sit down there and not get any game time while we've got Horton running around.
Angus Bell.
I'll still take Lonergan. We'll still have him. But no, I'm excited by Horton for sure. All right. Well, with that, so we just went through the players. For those playing along at home, I don't know who was taking notes, but which team, we'll give yourself a second, to which team do you think had the most players with their highest fantasy scores?
How do we know if they were right, Cargie?
Yeah, just listen.
Because we're about to tell them, Nelson.
Hold on.
I didn't hear anyone, but I don't think that's because we can't hear them.
That's correct.
There's no
that's
one
correct.
here.
You hit the nail on the head.
Well done. Congratulations.
Even on 5 apiece. Can't believe you guys guessed that one.
Hurricanes and Highlanders, that's it. Crusaders, they wrapped out that top 3 with 4. Reds got 3 with the Rebels also getting 3. The Tars with 2. Force with 1, Brumbies with 1, and Blues with 1. And the Chiefs and Brumbies both getting 0. And I said, I think you'd be able to pick it, thinking it was the Force they got 0. But I'm sorry, it was actually the Brumbies that had 0 there. That is amazing.
That's true. And look, if you were like me and just assumed that the Crusaders got all 15, that's fine. You know, that's also very acceptable. That would have been the common line of thought. So.
I'm just confused about how Falau Fainga didn't get in. Isn't he a gimme for top hooker every season?
He was behind Tom Horton.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Wowzers.
I better actually do some research before finals redraft then.
I was going to say, are you going to change your tip on the Waratahs Brumbies game now, mate?
Yeah. I only got 2 more points than Brendan Panga and Mosa, who you were hating on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Huge. All right. Well, look, let's get on to the last item on the menu.
I gave you a perfect lead-in segue there, and you didn't take it at all.
No, I didn't. Sorry. Wasn't picking up what you were putting down. This is the post-dessert cheese board and port.
Coffee.
Port coffee. All right. We're just going to talk about how our Draft Rugby Fantasy Finals series works. And I wasn't kidding when I said Harry can explain. We have 2 playoffs. We have the championship playoff and the spoon or the Nelson Dale playoff. So, Harry, do you want to take us through how the championship playoff works, or just in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So we play a 3-week finals. We do it the same for the top four at least every single season. Top four on the actual points goes through. If it's even, it goes on the total fantasy points score as the tiebreaker. And I think if that's even, which has never happened, it goes to the head-to-heads, right?
Correct. Yes.
We actually had this, and then after head-to-head, it goes to total points. We did head-to-head.
Or head-to-head.
I'm not 100% sure that's correct when we look back at the wooden spoon one.
I think if we're going to trust anybody on what happens in fantasy football, it's not like that keeps coming last.
It's not what we've done in the past. I can tell you that.
All right. Fair enough. Anyway, so then, sorry, I've lost my train of thought now. 3-week finals. So basically what happens is we play 2 consecutive weeks as a semi-final and we redraft every single week of finals. So this week, there's only the 4 Australian teams playing. So our top 4 finalists will have those 4 teams to pick from with the same 15 starters, 1 reserve forward, 1 reserve back to make up their squad. From that, you then accumulate the score from this week and the newly drafted teams from next week to see who wins. 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3, put the scores together, and then the winners of those 2 head-to-head semi-finals go into a sudden death grand final, which will most likely be Cargie and I.
That's what the bookies have in the
I'll wrap up this wooden spoon quite quickly. Very similar, just a lot more sad. Just a lot more sadness, maybe some more tears. But no, we do 2 weeks in a row. Myself and NSYNC, who got about a quarter of the points. We're going to draft 2 sides. This has changed almost every year, just in the last couple of years, to try and make sure I'm included. When what I was saying about when you guys were saying who wins if it's a draw, 2 years ago, I drew in the grand final of the wooden spoon, exact same points, and I had 10 to 20% more total points than him. It was 1-to-1 on head-to-head, but he was, I think, higher than me on the table. So it ended up he was the winner.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
The listeners, if you understood that, write in and tell us what Nelson's on about. And if you get it correct, we will send you out a
Hornami beanie.
Nelson will send you out a signed picture with
Hornami beanie.
An exclusive Hornami beanie from the team that was deleted from the competition that was deleted for the second time.
Because Australian rugby doesn't want to succeed.
Very good. No, so just to be clear on that, we have a wooden spoon final just to keep the managers down the bottom of the table still in it, still interested, still playing.
Did you keep NSYNC interested?
Look,
yeah, 100%. He just wasn't any good.
His record of not winning a single game might say otherwise in terms of the interest levels.
He's the Chiefs, mate. Give him a break.
He is not the Chiefs.
He's basically Warren Gatland.
But no, it's our device to prevent mid-season or end-of-season blues and just falling off and disappearing. So it means you've got something to play for to get out. You don't want to be in the wooden spoon finals. We do have a punishment for bottom of the table end of the regular season. I think we might have mentioned it before. Last year was the sexy calendar. This year, and congratulations to NSYNC for taking it out. The choice was between, and we're still a little bit upset that we didn't vote in the music video remake, but the punishment this year is NSYNC's going to have to get a life-size cardboard cutout of the champion holding the trophy, and it needs to be on display prominently in the living room of his domicile until the next season starts. And at any time, a draft member may drop in to check that it is in fact prominently displayed. And if it is not, there will be an additional punishment of purchasing a second life-size cardboard cutout of the champion with a trophy, and that will also need to be on display. So
and so on and so forth.
And so on and so forth.
So what we're basically summing up there is NSYNC's finally going to have some friends come over.
$300 a pop. It's an expensive one not to display. I'll say that much.
That's it. So we'll have to be taking turns doing trips down into Bondi just to drop in and check that NSYNC has my cardboard cutout as the champion prominently displayed. Just seeing if we can let that one slide past Harry. Is he gonna? No, we're good. All right.
Mate, they don't make life-size cutouts that big.
But yeah, true. We won't have enough cardboard for that. That's very good. That's very good. Excellent. All right. Well, if there's no further business, I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Episode 29, season 3, episode 29. Yeah. What are we getting up to now? Actually, let's just finish on the caps.
Oh yeah, can we?
On the caps.
Another nice short podcast, by the way, fellas.
Was it? Nice short games. Our specialty. We're on up to 76 caps, Harry. Congratulations.
Wowza.
So we're getting up there. Well, we're going to have to. We've got 24 more to plan something special for the 100th. We've had some pretty special guests on in the past, so we'll have to really step it up. Perhaps we'll get them all on at the same time or something.
Party pod. Celebrate.
Maybe we can get the Supersub on for that one. That'd be quite special. And Cargie, you miss out.
Look, we'll have to put it to a vote with our listeners. Or I think it'll be, look, it's about how many times have you won the spoon. That will determine whether or not you're on the podcast.
Nah.
Okay. The quality of my banter has now gone downhill. We clearly need to end this podcast. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you in the next one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.